What's up, BookTube? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Laura if you're new here, and today I'm doing the Mid-Year Book Freakout Tag. This tag was created by two people whose names I forget, but I will link their channels down below, so check them out. I believe it was created in like 2011 or something, several years ago, and it's since become a staple in BookTube. Everybody does these, so I'm sure you've already seen like dozens of these videos, but I thought that I'd jump on the trend since this is my first year doing BookTube and it seems like a fun thing to do. So here we are. So me being who I am, I really cannot just pick one book for each question. I'm just terrible at making decisions, and so every question will have multiple answers. So question one is the best book that I've read this year, and for this one I have 3 books in total, and that is Come Tumbling Down by Seanan McGuire. This is I think the 5th book in the Wayward Children series, which I absolutely adore. While this book is not my favorite in the series as a whole is one of my favorites of all time, and this book was one of my most anticipated releases of this year, and it really lived up. I loved this book. It was so good. It centers on Jack, who we meet in the first book. So we've really gotten to know Jack over the course of this series, and she's just a really fantastic character, so I loved reading more about her, and also Cade and the other characters from the first book were in it, and it was just a really wonderful read. So I loved this one and I gave it 5 stars. I also chose Red, White, and Royal Blue by McQuiston for this one as well, because how could I not? It was so good. This one came out last year, I think. It's a adult contemporary romance about the son of the President of the United States and the Prince of England falling in love, and the whole complicated mess that ensues from that. It was such a good book. I really can't get over it. For me, there was nothing wrong with that book. I couldn't find a single fault in it. For me personally, it was just truly a perfect book, and I'm so happy that I read it. And this was obviously also a 5-star read. And my third pick is actually a recent read. It's The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. I read this earlier this month, and oh my god, it's a new favorite. I fell in love with this book so hard. I just absolutely adored all of the characters. The story was so well done. This one is an adult fantasy, and it's also a romance, and it was just so heartwarming and sweet, and I sobbed as well. And I loved everything about this book, and oh my gosh. So it's definitely my newest favorite, and obviously again, 5 stars. Question 2 is the best sequel that I've read in 2020, and for this one I have 2 answers. The first one is Lair of Dreams by Libba Bray. This is book 2 in the Diviner series. This one is about a plague in New York City called the sleeping sickness, where people fall asleep and they don't wake up, and they end up having this never-ending nightmare, and their body starts to physically burn, and eventually they die. Our group of diviners has to figure out what's going on before everybody dies. Great time to read this if you like reading about pandemics during a pandemic. I do not, but I didn't realize that this was about a sickness until I started reading it, and by then I was already hooked, so I just went with it. But honestly, I am very glad that I read this, even if it made my anxiety worse, which it kind of added to it, you know? Like, this is supposed to be a scary book. It's supposed to scare the crap out of you, and it did that. And reading it at this time was definitely adding to that. So while it did make my anxiety worse in general, it did really add to the experience of reading this book, and I really enjoyed it. I liked it way more than the first one, and I really can't wait to read the next books in this series. And the next one is Catching Fire by Suzanne. This is book 2 in The Hunger Games. It is obviously a reread for me, but this one was my favorite in the series back in 2012, and it's still my favorite today. I love how everything happened in this book. I love Katniss just slowly descending into madness. I like the politics of it, and just everything about it. This book just works so well for me, and I'm so happy that I reread this series. And this was actually a 5-star read for me. I didn't think that was gonna happen, but here we are. Question 3 is new releases that I haven't read yet, but I want to. So many. Oh god, so many. Oh, I'm so behind. One of my reading goals for this year was to stay on top of new releases, and I started off the year pretty strong, and it's just been downhill from there. I'm really behind on that, and I have been reading a lot of new releases, but not nearly as many as I wanted to be, so I'm really slacking, but that's okay. So some of the ones that I really want to get to that have already been released are The City We Became by Jemisin, The Mermaid, the Witch, and the Sea by Maggie Tokuda-Hall, House of Dragons by Jessica Cluess, Real Men Knit by Kwana Jackson, and Forest of Souls by Lori M. Lee. There are literally several dozen more that I would like to get to, but these are the ones that I'm like really hyped for. Question 4 is most anticipated read for the second half of the year, and again the answer is many. I did do a video earlier this year about my most hyped books for this year, so I'll leave that link down below if you want to check it out. But some of the ones that I'm really looking forward to are You Had Me at Ola by Alexis Daria, Star Daughter by Shweta Thakrar, Where Dreams Descend by Janelle Angelis, Cemetery Boys by Aidan Thomas, A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik, and Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Haro. Question 5 is my biggest disappointments of the year, and for this one I have two. The first one being Wasted Words by Stacey Hart. I actually did a rant review for this one, so I'll leave that link down below as well. But this one is a self-published adult romance novel, and it was just god-awful. It had some really poorly done anxiety rep in it, and it was just, ugh, I did not like that book. So check out my rant review for it if you're curious as to why I hated it so much. But and then my second one was Daughter of the Siren Queen by Trisha Levenseller. This one, I mean, I loved the first book, and the second one just kind of took everything that I loved about the first book and ruined it a little bit. Like, it wasn't the worst book that I've ever read. I think I gave it 2 stars. There were some things that I liked about it, but just in comparison to the first book, it really didn't live up to that, and so it was a huge disappointment for me, unfortunately. Question 6 is my biggest surprise, and for this one I only have one answer for, and it's unquestionably Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy by Cassandra Clare. This one took me by surprise. I think I've mentioned a few times on this channel, but I've pretty much fallen out of love with this entire world. It used to be my favorite thing on this planet, and then as I got older I kind of stopped loving it so much. But I keep reading these books hoping that one of them will bring me right back to when I was, you know, 17 years old and in love with this entire world. And this one kind of did that. I really didn't think it was going to. This book came out in 2016 and I've been avoiding it for the last 4 years because I was just dreading it. I did not want to read it. I don't really want to read any of her books anymore, but I keep doing it. But then I read this one for Tome Topple in May, I think it was, and it really shocked me at how much I loved this. It was just so good. It was so much fun, and it really did bring me back to my younger self when I still enjoyed Cassandra Clare's writing and her world. So I'm so happy that I read this one and that I loved it, and it actually made me really excited to read Chain of Gold and the other ones of her books that I haven't gotten around to yet. So yay, very happy. Question 7 is my favorite new to me author, and for this one it's definitely TJ Klune is one of them, the author of The House in the Cerulean Sea. I've only read the one book by him so far, but it was so good that I'm absolutely planning on reading more by him. His writing style is fantastic. I love the banter between the characters and the way that things are written. That book at least was absolutely hilarious, but at the same time very heartwarming and beautiful, and that is exactly the kind of book that I like. So if his other books are anything like this one, then he's probably going to be a new favorite author in general, and probably going to turn into an auto-author for me at some point. I also fell in love with Sarah Gailey. I read Upright Women Wanted in January, and then I read Magic for Liars in April, and both of them just blew me away. I did like Magic for Liars a bit better, but the first one was still like just so freaking good, and it really gripped me and made me want to read more of their books. Sarah Gailey just really knows how to craft story so well, and I just want to read all of their books now. And then finally, Martha Wells is another one. I know, I am talking about Murderbot once again on this channel, but I just love it so much, I can't help it. So Martha Wells is the author of the Murderbot Diaries, which is a series that I started reading earlier this year because of Mara over at Books Like Whoa, and I just fell in love with it. Murderbot is just so much fun, and it's just hilarious and weirdly heartwarming, and I just want to protect him. So they're mostly novellas. I've read the first 4 books in the series so far already, and the first full-length novel just came out at the beginning of May, and I haven't read it yet, but I'm really looking forward to it, and I really hope that Martha Wells just writes Murderbot forever, because I will never get sick of this. Question 8 is my newest fictional crush. I don't really get fictional crushes anymore, mainly because I mostly read YA novels, and being that I'm in my 20s, I don't get crushes on fictional 17-year-olds. That would be weird. So I'm going to change this question to my newest fictional children, because I do often read books and I just see these characters who I want to protect, and this weird kind of maternal instinct comes out and I want to see them thriving and happy. So I'm going to answer that question instead. My newest book children are all of the children from the house in the Cerulean Sea. I know that I've mentioned that book a few times now in this video, but all of the characters in that book were just so good. And I mean, like, these characters are actual children. They're like around 6 years old, aside from the gnome who's like in her 200s, but it's fine. But they're all just so wonderful and adorable, especially Chansey, the green blob, Lucy, the Antichrist, and Sal, the were-Pomeranian. Oh my gosh, those three just stole my heart away. Question 9 is my newest favorite character, and I only have one answer for this, and I'm sorry, but Murderbot. It has to be Murderbot. I can't deal with Murderbot. He's just so good and pure. Yes, he's a Murderbot, but he's a cinnamon roll, okay? Question 10 is books that made me cry. There aren't too many of these, but I do have a couple. Those being Mockingjay by Suzanne Collins, Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy by Cassandra Clare. That ending though, oh my god, was not expecting that. Again, The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune, Dark and Deepest Red by Anna Marie McLemore, and All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson. All of these books, for some reason or another, made me absolutely sob. Half the time it was happiness, half the time it was despair, but regardless, many tears were shed, sometimes on the bus, and in the case of Dark and Deepest Red, those tears were shed while on a treadmill at the gym, so that was awkward, but it's fine. Question 11 is books that made me happy, and basically all the books that I just answered for the last one could apply to this for the most part at least. But I also want to mention Mooncakes by Suzanne Walker and Wendy Zhu. This book was just so freaking cute. I gave it 5 stars. It's a graphic novel about a witch and a non-binary werewolf who were childhood crushes, and then the one moved away and now they're reconnecting and falling back in love, but are also dealing with some magical troubles. Question 12 is the most beautiful book that I've bought this year, and for this one I have a couple. Nevernight by Jay Kristoff. I absolutely adore this cover. I think it's just stunning. The Girl in the Tower by Catherine Arden. I did also buy the other 2 books in this series this year as well, but this one just really stands out for me. I love the bits of foliage on the corners here. I think it really adds to it. I really enjoy graphic covers, and this one is just so well done. I love the art style of it, and just overall this cover makes me so happy. The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I mean, look at this. Look at this. It's beautiful. I also just noticed while filming this that in the light, the decorative bits around the title are rainbow, and it's so beautiful. I didn't notice that until right now. Oh my gosh, I love this. I love how beautiful this book is. The naked hardback is also stunning as well. I just think that this book is so beautifully put together, and I hope the contents are just as beautiful, but based on everything that I've heard, I'm sure it will be. And the last book that I'm picking for this question is The Storm of Life by Amy Rose Capita. Oh my gosh, look at this. This probably isn't going to focus, but like, just look at this cover. It's so nice, and the best part is that it has 2 genderqueer individuals kissing on the cover, and that alone just makes this cover be one of my favorites ever. I mean, the fact that we can have that and have that kind of visual representation just makes me so happy. It makes me want to dance around with joy. So this cover just really takes the cake. It really does. And the final question is, what books do I need to read by the end of the year? So many. Basically every single new release that I have on my TBR and haven't gotten to yet is obviously not attainable. I think my current TBR shelf for books released this year is over 70, so that's definitely not gonna happen, but I can try, right? And then my other goal for this year was to read more sequels, because I'm so bad for that, where I'll read the first book in a series and then take years to finish it. So I'm really trying to focus on new releases and also sequels this year. So ideally, I would really like to get to the last 2 books in the Arc of a Scythe trilogy, the last 2 books in the Folk of the Air trilogy, the rest of the Diviners series, the rest of the books in the Grishaverse. I want to read these before the show comes out, which I have no idea when that is, but I imagine it's not going to be that long from now, and so many more sequels, as well as many books as possible off of my list for my series I Finally Read That. I'll leave that video linked down below if you don't know what I'm talking about. So basically, I have a crap ton of books that I need to read, and definitely not enough time to do them, but such is the life of a reader, eh? So how many of these I'll actually get to, I have no idea. Hopefully a lot, but definitely not all of them. There's no way in hell that I'm reading over 100 books in the next 6 months. I will do my best, but that's definitely not gonna happen. So that's it for the Mid-Year Book Freakout tag. This tag was a lot of fun. It's really nice to kind of reflect back on what I've read so far. This has been an incredible reading year for me. I'm reading way more than I have this year than I have in many previous years. I'm really happy that I finally have my reading mojo back after several years of being way too drained from school to have the motivation to read. I'm so glad that I was able to find my love of reading again and be able to take such incredible joy from all these stories that I read. Yeah, so that about does it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a fantastic day wherever you are in the world, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye! Ooh. 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 It's rainbow.